for I shall see the King. I shall see the King with the angels sing. I shall see the King someday. In the better land, on the golden strand, and with him shall ever stay. In his glory, I shall see the King, and forever, endless praises sing. 'Twas on Calvary, Jesus died for me. I shall see the King someday, in the land of song, in the glory throne, where there never comes a night. With my Lord once slain, I shall ever reign in the glory land of light. In his glory, I shall see the King, and forever, endless praises sing. 'Twas on Calvary, Jesus died for me. I shall see the King someday. I shall see the King, all my tributes bring, and shall look upon his face. Then my soul shall be all he ransomed me, and has kept me by his grace. In his glory, I shall see the King, and forever, endless praises sing. 'Twas on Calvary, Jesus died for me. I shall see the King someday. And to finish our inspiration, we will do 101. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my mother, not my father, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my mother, not my father, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my brother, not my sister, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my brother, not my father, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer.
All right, good evening, church. Good evening, church. All right, we had food today, right? We had some good food. Good, so nobody ain't hungry, so we could talk. All right. So today our AY is entitled, The Gospel According to My Wallet. Let me see all the wallets and purses, right? I ain't gonna ask you for money, don't worry. I just want to see them, right? So we're talking about stewardship. We're talking about finances. And I know this topic might be a little bit touchy for some people, but the Bible does has a lot to say about money, right? How many of you believe that God cares about what we do with our finances? All right, so that's good. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you some texts. I don't want you to tell me which area of finances or which concept is this text talking about. It could be saving, investing, budgeting, whatever have you. So first text I want you to turn to is Proverbs chapter 21, verse 20. Proverbs 21 and verse 20. All right. So that verse says, there is treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. What is that talking about? I can't hear you. Talk to me. Come on. What is that talking about? There's treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. Yes? Yeah, so you spend your money or saving, right? So he's talking about saving. How many of you save? Don't lie to me. So I could get people at your bank accounts later? Sure? No problem. You didn't say that? All right. Right. So this is talking about saving, right? Good. Next one. I want you to turn to Luke chapter 14, verse 28. This is a favorite one of mine. It's kind of funny. So again, that is Luke chapter 14, verse 28. All right. So this one says, for which of you intended to build a tower, sitteth not down first, and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish. Right? What is that talking about? Budgeting. Good. So may I ask you a question? Any of y'all ever see a house that was building for 40 years that's still at the foundation? Right? They got people that was building a house for 50 years and can't finish yet. So this is what the Bible is saying. The Bible is saying, look, before you get shame, sit down and plan out everything and make sure that you have enough money to finish what you started. All right? So don't be building the house for 50 years. All right. Next one. And this is an interesting one. 1 Corinthians 15:33. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. So this one says, be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. What is the concept we're seeing in this text? What is it telling? Pardon me? Somebody tell me you shouldn't join pyramid schemes. But that is true. But that's not what the text is trying to tell us. What is this text telling us? It says evil communications corrupt good manners. So, pardon me? Yes. There's something else I want you to notice about this text. So, we communicate with who? Who do we communicate with? Different other people. So you have to be careful who you're hanging around with, right? Do you know that studies have shown that your earnings will be, on average, will be the average of your 10 closest friends? Yes, because you're hanging around them all the time and you are having conversations about money. So if you're hanging around people that aren't trying to better themselves, more than likely you may find yourself in that same situation, right? If you're hanging around people that want to do better for themselves, you'll be pushed, right? Because if you're not like that, you will feel like you're out of place, right? So you have to be careful who you're hanging with. Now, I have a very short testimony. So when I was at BCC, I wasn't doing very well, right? Not that I couldn't, but I was hanging around the wrong crowd. And one day, this guy, I don't know where you come from. He was like, your name is Matthias? I said, yeah. He was like, you get the most in that exam that we did. I think it was business managerial economics. So I didn't even know that I got the most. But I believe God sent him to me because he said, look, I think you have ability. Come with us. Come with this group of people. We sit down and we do our work, and we come together and we reason out everything. And from the time I left my old crowd, I went with him, my grades went up. All right? So that can happen with finances too, right? The people that you relate to, that you're communicating with, will influence your situation. The last one I want to bring to you is Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 7. This is quite a familiar one. Proverbs 22 and verse 7. It says, the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Right. So what is this Bible text telling us? Don't trust the bank, trust the credit unions. All right. I like that. I like that. Right? Right. So it's talking about debt. Right? God, if you read the Bible, God set up a system where he didn't want the children of Israel to rely too much on debt. Right? Because the borrower is truly a slave to the lender. The bank can make your life very miserable. Right? The bank can impose a lot of rules and regulations. And at any point in time, if it has cause, and you have a loan from the bank, they can decide to pick up the phone and say, I want all my money, right? So we have to be careful, and we have to watch the amount of debt. And if we are in debt, God wants us to get out of debt as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to introduce you and to let you know, if you didn't, that the Bible does have a lot to say about how we should deal with our finances, and I hope that you take something away from this evening. Now, following me is a young man who's going to expound a lot more on a topic that I think we touched on just now, which is budgeting, right? I'm talking about Elder Kent Straker. Now, Kent is very passionate about personal finances. He actually has a course, right? And I've been to all two of his courses, shameless plug again. And he goes around the island. He actually teaches at some schools. So the government has started introducing personal finance in the secondary schools, and he is a major part of that. So this evening, I'm going to invite Brother Kent Straker to tell us all about budgeting.
All right. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Matthias. I want to say that you might have noticed that we are wearing the same shirt, and there's some other people wearing the same shirt as well. And that's because this evening's program is being put on by the Barbados Seventh-day Adventist Cooperative Credit Union. And we want you to know that while the credit union's business is taking deposits and giving out loans, that because we are a Christian organization by and for Adventists only, that we are also very concerned with our members' stewardship of their money, how they manage it, and that they do well, and not just that they give us the money, right? That will be a part of it, of course, but there's so much more to biblical stewardship, and that's what we're here to talk to you about today, all right? I'm going to warn you, there's a lot in this presentation because Matthias told me budgeting, but he kind of went off track and got a little bit broader than that. But I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I'll try to move as quickly as possible. If you have any questions, you let me know. Okay? So let's go. All right, so when they talk about money in churches, this is the only thing that you really hear about. Tithing, right? And maybe that's not true because you also hear about offering. That's the only other thing you hear about when it comes to money, right? But what about the rest of your money? After you pay a tithe and offering, how many people have actually heard from the pulpit, from in church, how to manage the rest of your money? Is all the money not God's? So is it okay if we talk about managing the rest of it as well, apart from tithes and offering on Sabbath? Or are we breaking Sabbath? Okay, all right, just checking. All right, let's go to the next slide. Next. All right. How many verses in the Bible do you think there are that mention are about money? A, less than 100. B, 2 to 500. C, less than 1,000. Or D, over 2,000. Let's see who believes it's A. Hands up. All right, we got one. Who believes it's B? One or two. All right, who believes that is C? Less than 1,000. Who believes that the answer is D? Oh yeah, it's definitely D. It's over 2,000, right? Money is one of the things that's mentioned most often in the Bible. Now, that does not mean it's the most important thing in the world, but anytime the Bible talks about something a lot, that means it has something to say about it. It has lots to say about it, and we should not ignore that. We should pay attention to what the Bible says about money. Now, Matthias mentioned a couple verses, some of which are in this presentation, but you're going to see that throughout the presentation, each of the principles I'm presenting has a biblical backing with it, okay? So let's start with a misconception that people have. 1 Timothy 6:10 says, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." Anybody know what it is that people actually say to people? They say that money is the root of all evil. And I think that this is a coping mechanism. When people are bad with money, they kind of say, "Oh man, that evil anyway, I don't want that. So, I'm happy that I don't have any," right? But the Bible didn't say anything about that. The Bible said that the love of money is the root of all evil. Let's go, right? The Bible also says in Proverbs 13:22 that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Who are your children's children? Your grandchildren. The Bible is saying the love of money is the root of all evil, not money, and that a good man leaves an inheritance to his grandchildren. You know, if you leave an inheritance to your grandchildren, that means your children start out too, right? All right. You can't do that if you ain't got no money. You got to have plenty of money to do that. Next. Now, if you want to do well with money, there are only three things, really. And hold on. Let me just backtrack a bit and say that because we talk about tithing and offering quite frequently, I'm not really going to touch on that in this presentation. I'm talking about the rest of your money, okay? But apart from that, after you've tithed and given your offering, return your offering, all that, there's only three things you really need to do with money. You need to spend less, you need to earn more, and you need to invest the remainder wisely. All right? So we're going to talk about how to do those three things. Next. The first thing you need to do is spend less than you earn. And this sounds obvious, but a lot of people struggle with this. How would you spend more than you earn? Debt, right? So if every month you realize this credit card balance getting higher and higher every month, I don't know what's going on here. You are spending more money than you're making. And you might not even realize it because the card here and the transfer there and all the digital stuff that we do now. But when you go into debt, that's effectively spending more money than you're earning. You're borrowing from your future self and your future earnings to buy something right now. So the first principle is spend less than you earn. You have to do that. If you can't do that, it's a non-starter. You're not going to get very far. Next slide. There's a quote that I like. It says, "It's not your salary that makes you rich, it's your spending habits." There are people that earn millions of dollars a year, and they're broke, right? They're basketball players and football players, and 2 years after they retire, they're on the poverty line. They got no money after making millions throughout their careers. Why? Because they spent way more than they were earning. And it doesn't matter how much you're earning, if you're not spending less than that, you're not going to be able to build any kind of wealth and do well with money. Next. So this is what happens to the average person, right? If the green line, there's a green line at the top, a blue line, and a red line. At first, you start out making a pretty low income, and then over time, maybe with education or experience or whatever, your income starts to go up. right? Upward trajectory, you get a bit older, earn a bit more money, change jobs, whatever. And as your income goes up, you know what? You say, look, I just get a promotion. This car all of a sudden just don't fit my station in life, right? Then you get next promotion, and you know what? This apartment, this don't suit a senior analyst, you know what I mean? And then you stop shopping at Popular, now you're at Massey, right? So what happens with most people is that their income goes up and their needs or expenses go up right along with it, and you're never able to save anything. So that red line there is the savings. You're just barely able to save anything because there's not much of a gap between your income and your needs or your expenses. Next, what people who want to do well with money do is that as their income goes up, their expenses might go up, but they go up much slower. They do not go up in proportion to your increase in income. So if your income increased by 20%, you can't decide, hey, increasing my spending by 20%. You just eat up all your gains right there. You can take a little 1 or 2%, do a little something nice for yourself, but you cannot eat up all your gains in spending. You must put that extra towards saving. The Bible says that the foolish man spendeth all that he have, right? Next. Well, we just touched on this as well. It says, for which of you sit down to build a tower and do not count the cost, right? Same thing that Matthias was talking about. You have to make sure that you are looking ahead and planning well and budgeting for what you need to do. One of the things you need to do before you even get to budgeting is that you need to track expenses. Why would you need to track expenses? Right, so you might say, no, I make a budget, and it's completely unrealistic because you don't know how much you're currently spending. You put groceries at $500 for the whole family. You put gas at $50 because you don't know, you wasn't keeping track. So the first thing you got to do is to track how much you're currently spending and use that as a baseline, right? And then next slide is that's when you start with the budget after that. That's just a written plan to help you decide how you can spend your money. Next slide. I like to think of a budget as a balancing act, right? There's income on one side and expenses and savings on the other. If the income grows, then suddenly so can the savings or the expenses. And they have to be a certain equilibrium there. If the expenses grow and the income does not, then you're out of balance again. The budget helps you to keep that balance and manage as your income fluctuates. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a bunch of reasons up there on why budgeting is important. Some of them are helps you save money, helps relieve stress, helps lead to a happier retirement, helps you achieve your financial goals, so many things. I think that overall, one good way of putting it is that it helps you to be a better steward, right? A good steward makes a plan. A good steward doesn't just get things and then just go and spend willy-nilly. Now we have types of personal budgets. And there are so many different types, but for the purposes of today's presentation, because we're short on time, I'm going to stick to just 3 of them: the 50-30-20, zero-based budget, and the envelope budget method. Next slide. Right, so 50-30-20 is where you roughly put 50% of your money towards needs, 30% towards things you want, and 20% towards saving or investing, right? So when I say needs, these are things that even if you lost your job, you would need to do anyway. You have to do these things. You got to pay rent, you got to pay for mortgage, you got to buy food, you got to pay utilities. 30% for wants is things that you would like to do. But if you can't, you won't die. You're buying clothes and eating out and those kind of things. And then 20% towards saving, investing, right? That's a kind of rough, simple way that most people can understand to split your money up, right? It's probably simpler. It's a very rudimentary way to do it, but if you have never done one before and you're not sure where to start, it's a good starting point. Next. Then there's the cash envelope system. How many people here spend most of their money on card or electronically? Right? I know, I do. One of the things that happens, right, when you spend electronically or by card is that sometimes you don't remember that you spend money. It's like, wait, I just had $300 here. And then you check and you say, you know what, I contacting CIBC tomorrow, this fraud. And then you realize, no, it's me, right? I was just spending and I forgot. I forgot what I spent. You know how you won't be able to forget if you had cash. Because when you break that 100, it's feel it in your heart, first of all. And then secondly, you only got so much left in your purse or your wallet, right? So, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? So when you have cash, what it helps you to do is, first of all, is a deterrent. Because you stop buying little foolish things because you don't like breaking money. At least I don't. I hate breaking 100 for a $2 thing, right? I would just walk back out. If I got my card, bam, I don't care, right? So the first thing is that a deterrent. It helps you spend less. But also, more importantly, the cash envelope system is basically you have these envelopes and you put money in each envelope. You got one for utilities, one for eating out, one for gas, one for whatever. And when the money is gone from that envelope, you know that how much ever you budgeted out from that envelope is gone, and therefore you cannot spend on that thing anymore. If you must spend on that thing, you know it got to come from somewhere else. You got to take it from another envelope. So it's a kind of tactile way to help you see how budgeting should actually work. Go back, we won't get there yet. That if you're overspending in a category, it's going to cost you in another area. So when your Shefet money gone and when things just come back out, you got to decide, you want that gas money or you plan to play utilities this month, or you understand? So it helps you to keep on track in that way. And if you go back one slide, back in the day it used to be envelopes, but there's actually like these inserts for purses now that they have for the women, right? Where you could kind of organize it, and that's a little bit cleaner than envelopes, I suppose. Yeah. Now the next one is zero-based budget, and this is just where you take your income and you list out all your expenses and you're trying to make sure that there's nothing left. You're trying to get back to zero here, right? So go on to the next slide. You definitely can't see that, I don't think, right? But you list out all the different sources of income and there's total income there. And then there's, on the right side, there's expenses, so there's like giving or tithes and food, and they list out everything. They got a category for miscellaneous, by the way, because there will always be miscellaneous something in a month. And then you end up with zero, because you don't want that the idea of this budget is that you're giving every single dollar a job. You're making a plan and you intend to stick to it, and you know, I can't overspend because I ain't got no room to overspend because I budgeted out everything already. Right? So if you say I can save 200 and that is in the budget and you save the 2, well then there's nothing left to overspend from because you already did everything you needed to do, right? Next. Now, if you must cut costs, there are 3 things that take up most of people's money, right? For most people, this is going to be 50 to 75% of your budget right here. So housing, so as rent, mortgage, utility, that kind of thing. Transportation, so that's car payments, gas, maintenance, all that kind of stuff, get bus fare, and food, right? Let's go. So when it comes to, after you do the big 3, the next thing is kind of subscription-based monthly things. Your flow, your channels, your Digicel, phone bill, Netflix, water authority, all them kind of things, right? Those are the next things that you go to after you finish the big 3. You cut them as much as you can. I mean, water authority and light and power, what can you do, right? They got monopolies. Unless you harvesting rainwater or something, you're not going to be able to do much about that. But if you're not using the subscriptions and you're not getting value, you could cut them, right? You might have a phone plan with unlimited minutes and you check your phone bill and you make 10 calls for 30 seconds each last month. Like, cut that. Cut that, get some data, go and top up somewhere, right? Top up $100 and just do that every couple of months or whatever, and you'll be fine probably. I don't know, right? So it's a lot of places I had a 4-year stop up. But anyways, the point is that if you're not getting value from these things, you cut them. If you got Netflix and you don't watch it, cut it. I don't know who still got multiple choice, but if you got that, right, cut it. If you're not using it, right? If you're not using it, cut it. So let's go. So we did spend less. Let's touch a little bit on earn more. Slide. Next. So Proverbs 10 verse 4 says, "He who has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent makes rich." To me, this is talking about working hard. There's no way of getting away from it, right? If you want to do well with money, part of it is that you got to work hard. At some point, you got to work hard. Unless you're a Bezos or a Gates or something like that, a Musk, you can go work hard to earn that money that you use to invest and save and do all the things. Next. The first thing you could do that will impact that is that you could think very carefully about the career that you choose, right? I found that a lot of people kind of fall into careers. They just come out and something happen and they just kind of go with it. They don't think too much about it. Maybe they like that social studies teacher, so I'm doing social studies or something, right? You got to think more carefully than that about the career that you choose. You should be doing, let's go to the next slide. You should be thinking deeply about the career prospects, the demand for it, the potential salary, the cost it's going to take you to get qualified, and how all those balance out. Can you go to the next slide, please? Right. So it said the 6 steps here. It says first you assess yourself. So you look at your strengths, the things you're good at, the things you feel that you would be comfortable doing on a daily basis. You make a list of occupations that could use these skills. And then what you're going to do is start to do some research. Before I went into my field, I talked to people who were in the field. I asked them, well, just start a salary. What you got to do to get qualified? How long does it take? You know, how much that costs? Blah, 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 blah. So you do research, and you find out from people who are actually in the field what's going on with these different occupations. Once you make a choice, then you make the choice, you identify the goals that you have to do, like get a degree or do this certification or whatever, and then you create a career action plan, right? So you don't just fall into a career with no plan at all. You want to make a plan. This is especially for the younger people, right? Make a plan on what you want to do and how you want to achieve that. Next. Now, apart from your main career, there's also what they call side hustles, which is basically just other ways that you make money. A secondary job or some kind of small business you have on the side. Oh, I good at baking cakes. I can bake cakes and sell or whatever, right? And then, so that's earning more. That's pretty straightforward. There's not much to say there. You got to work hard. You got to choose a career wisely, and you got to pick up additional sources of income. Because, let's go back one. I think that in today's environment, it really is, I would say that it's quite risky to just have your job as your only source of income. Employers don't have the same kind of loyalty that they used to have. Back in the day, when an employer had an employee that they had for 20 years, it meant something. Now they don't really care, right? Some new manager is going to come in and he's trying to cut costs and he's like, oh, this old person, bam, gone, right? They don't care. They really don't. They're retrenching everybody being made redundant. You can't depend only on your main source of income. And that's why I feel that you must have additional sources, right? The final thing is that you need to try to invest wisely. Luke 16:10 says, he who is faithful in very little is faithful also in much, and he who is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much. Now, I put this here because most of the time when I say you should invest, I know that half of you thought, I ain't got no money to invest. I ain't got enough money to be investing, right? But the Bible is telling you here that whatever little you have, you need to be financially responsible with it, which includes investing. And then once you've shown that you can be trusted with little, perhaps much will come to you. You can't want to invest much, but you've never invested little. Most people who win the lottery, right, are broke within 3 years. You know why? Because people who play lottery aren't good with money. By default, if you're playing the lottery, you're not very good with money, generally speaking. And so when you get a lot of money, like most of you say, well, if I tell you what you need now, you say, well, I need some money. Yeah, but if I gave you a couple million, would you know what to do? I know you say that. I know you say that. But the research says that the lottery winners get it, and within a couple of years, they've squandered it. Oh, where's the Carlos, Mike? Right. Well, I hope that that's the case, right? So I hope that if you win the lottery, not because you was playing, but because, a kind passerby hand you a ticket or something like that. Because, I know you wouldn't buy a ticket. I know you wouldn't be in it to win it, right? So, but if something happened and you did come into some money, I hope that you would use the biblical principles to make sure that you store that money well. I think it's a travesty, and it's happened more often with inheritance, really, that people will inherit money that their parent, grandparent, who are rich uncle or whatever, work hard for, save up, refuse to spend, say, this gonna go to my children. And then it just squandered. Squandered. They don't, and on what? They don't know. They just buying stuff, right? It was just buying stuff. And I think that is not only sad for the person who passed that down, but is sad because that money was given to them by God to steward, and they were not a wise stewards with it, right? Let's go to the next one. Now, I want to make a clear distinction between saving and investing, right? When you put down money to spend in the future, let's say you're saving up for a car or a house or whatever, that's saving. When you put down money in the hopes that it grows significantly in the future, that's investing. Saving is for the short term, it's generally low risk. Investing is for the long term, and it generally carries a slightly higher risk, okay? Next. Now, we know the story of the talents, right? One man was given 5, next man given 2, next man given 1. Master goes away, and the man with the 5 and the man with 2 double their money. The man with the 1 said, this ain't enough to invest. I can bury this in the ground, right? That's probably what some of us saying. No, I ain't got enough to invest. I can just drop it under my bed or something like that. And what happened to that man? What happened to the 1 talent that he had buried in the ground? Let's go to the next slide, right? The master said in Matthew 24, 14 to 15, 25, 14 to 15, for it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted them with his property. To one he gave 5, another 2, and another 1 according to their ability. Then he went away. Next slide. Right? And, go back one. At the end, what happened is that the man with the 1 got his talent taken away. It was given to somebody who had better ability to manage. We as Bajans, right? Caribbean people kind of, but Bajans more specifically, we have a very conservative culture. We don't like to take risk. That's why the credit unions have billions of dollars in them, and the stock market is non-existent because everybody wants to save. Nobody wants to invest. Now, no, this is coming from a credit union presentation, right? But I'm trying to tell you what the Bible says. Saving is very important. I don't want to understate or diminish that. But saving is not going to build you wealth. Saving protects you from unforeseen circumstances and protects you from having to take debt and stuff like that. Investing will build you wealth. So you must save, but you must also invest, right? There must be both. They go hand in hand. By the way, you can't invest without saving either. Because if everything is investments and you don't save at all and then something comes up, then now you got to liquidate savings, you got to take losses. It don't make sense. You have to do them in tandem. And that's why I'm talking about both of them at the same time. Ecclesiastes 11, 1-2 says, cast your bread on the surface of the waters, for you will find it after many days. Divide your portion to 7 or even to 8, for you do not know what misfortune may occur on the earth. Anybody know what financial principle this is talking about? Yes, diversification. He said don't put all your eggs in one basket. Same thing, right? No matter how good something seems, investing opportunity or whatever, you never put all your eggs in one basket, even with savings, right? So I would tell you, have some money in the Adventist Credit Union, but also have some money in a bank. Have some money, have money in different places, right? You never have all your eggs in a single basket because you don't know what's going to happen. The people that had all the money in Clico thought it was a good deal. And it was at the time. Right? It hurt. And it would hurt way worse if it was everything you had. Right? So you never put all your eggs in one basket, whether that's saving or investing. There's a list of investment opportunities. We'll skip that. Go to the next one. Next. Right, so Proverbs 13:11 says, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whosoever gathers little by little will increase it. And I put this here because oftentimes when I'm talking to people, especially young people, they'll tell me about these things that with astronomical returns, right? I can put in 1,000 today, and tomorrow I got 5. That don't work, right? Just that there's no other way to say it. That don't work. If you make money fast, you're liable to lose it just as fast. The real way to get wealthy, according to the Bible, is to get rich slow. Slowly, over time, methodically, investing, consistently saving, consistently paying down and off debt, consistently, not trying to get these big wins that, you can put in some and tomorrow I'm going to retire. Life just don't work like that. Next. So let's talk about that. Next slide. Matthias already mentioned what the Bible says, but another quote that somebody said about that is that is quicksand to your financial dreams, right? You're trying to get ahead. You're trying to build wealth, trying to save, trying to invest, but all you paycheck going towards paying off debt from things in the past, right? Let's go to the next slide. What can you do? If you're looking to improve your stewardship, right? Do better with your money, with what you have after you tithe, after you give offering, and you're looking to improve, what can you do? Next slide. The first thing is to educate yourself, right? And I think that one of the best ways to do that is with the Bible. That, as we saw, the Bible has a lot to say about money and managing money. Go to the next slide, right? And that there's a very small fraction of what the Bible says about money, because I'm just trying to give you the highlights here. But I hope, next slide, I hope that it will cause us to look in the Bible more to see what else it says about stewardship, about money, about wealth building, and how you can do better. Also, there are other books you could read, right? Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Psychology of Money, all good books. All these you can find for free on YouTube or on the internet somewhere, or you could buy them if you want, right? But all good books about money and about these beginner books that help you. If you're not really sure where to begin, you can start with those ones, right? I see some people here who were supposed to read all of them, and they look kind of ashamed, so I doubt that they did, people from my class. But okay, next slide, right? Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rules over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender, as Matthias pointed out earlier, so I won't go too much more on that one. Go to the next slide. Now, the biggest debt that most people will take in their life is a mortgage, right? Now, is a mortgage bad? No, not necessarily. For most poor people, it's going to be the only reasonable way that you're going to get a house, right? You don't have a couple $100,000 put down, so you're probably going to have to take a mortgage. What I would say is that if you do have to take one, make it as small as possible. Don't go to the bank and then pre-qualify you for some amount, and you say, you know what? I'm going right up. I can take the maximum that them giving me, because them feel that I could pay it back. But let me tell you something, the bank really don't care, right, about you as a person, what you could pay back on a month or whatever. They know that if you got to cut other things out your life to pay the mortgage, you will, because you don't want to lose where you live. So they qualify you for whatever is the maximum they think your salary can manage. But you have to look at your budget and see what you can realistically manage. That's what you need to do, right? You have to do that, not be guided by just what you're qualified for. Make sure that is a very comfortable number that you can manage, so even if things don't go exactly as you plan in the next couple of years, that you don't end up losing it or having to get it repossessed or anything like that, right? So that's mortgage. The next thing, and this is Bejan's favorite one, a car. Typical progression, okay? Finish university, get a job, pass probation, brand new car. All the time, right? A car is so bad for your wealth building journey. Not only do you put you in debt and you got to pay that back, and then you got to pay all that interest and everything, but it also depreciates in value over time. And on top of that, it is costly to run. There's gas, there's maintenance, you got insurance, all these things just so you could drive to work, to park it in a parking lot all day, to work hard, to pay the bill for the car that gets you to work. Come on. I'm not saying that you should never take a car loan ever. What I'm saying is that, if possible, the ideal would be to buy the car cash. Save up some money and buy whatever you could afford. If that is not feasible, then take the smallest possible loan you can and get the cheapest, most reliable car you can and operate with that until you can do better. Getting a brand new car, that's something that wealthy people do. Okay? Unless you plan to keep that car for 20 years, buying a brand new car is extremely bad for your wealth building journey. From the time you drive that off the lot, 5, 10 grand, knock off the value, you just lost that. Until you could lose 5 or 10 grand and not feel a way about it, don't be buying new cars, right? Again, unless you're gonna keep them for like 20 years, which most people don't do. They buy them, and then 3, 4 years later, they want a different new car where you already eat the $30,000 or $40,000 in depreciation, and now you've gone back to get another big loan again, right? So please be careful with cars. If you can, do cash. Whatever you have, drive it as long as you can, safely, right? And save up money for your next purchase. If you have a loan now, just manage the loan, try to pay it off, and then once the loan goes away, don't just say, well, you know what? It's time to upgrade. I got free money now. You know, I can spend on this, I can spend on that, I can upgrade. No. Save that money in an account. Same way how you send it to the bank or the credit union or wherever. Put that money in an account so that when you need a new car, you will have something to pull from. Maybe you won't be able to pay full cash, but you would have only take like a 50% loan or something, a smaller loan, so that you're not burdened with so much interest. Somebody had a question? Yeah? There's a mic here, sorry. We have one at the front.
Testing.
Hi. So we're on the topic of buying new cars. So Kate, from
Yes.
your professional experience, do you think it's wise to buy an older car and then when you get it, spend all the money at the mechanic than to buy a newer car and keep your money in your pocket because it's newer?
Okay, right. That's what people always tell me, right? But realistically, that just ain't gonna happen. Let me tell you why, right? You buy a new car. First of all, the insurance can be triple what it is on an old car. You know why? Because my old car has no value. Nobody care. Insurance at $1,000 a year. That's what I'm paying. Whatever you're paying, a lot more than that. When you do go to service your car, I can go and my mechanic and charge me $150 or something like that and throw some piece of old thing on there and we good to go. Duct tape, bam. Right? You know, you got to go to the official service person of NASCO, wherever, they're going to charge you an arm and 2 legs and how much ever just to service your car. If you barely dent that car, scratch that car, do anything with that car, you can go take a second loan just to afford to fix that car. What I'm trying to say is, I've had old cars. My first car, I think I bought it for 15. I upgrade, I think I pay 5. Right? When something go wrong with my car, I go to my mechanic and he's find a second-hand piece off of some other car and he's put it on that car. It don't cost me no money, right? And if God forbid something really go wrong with my $1,500 car, you think I paying $1,000 to fix it? No, I can sell that to somebody who white for $200 or $300, and I go get another $1,500. You understand what I mean? Like people say that, but when you think of all the costs that go into having a car, the registration, the insurance, the servicing, all that, it costs significantly more to own a new car. And then apart from that, when you buy a new car, let's say for $50,000, right? You could buy a new car for $50,000? Okay, 70. When you by next year, you buy that car today, by next year the car worth 60 a little bit. And by a year after that it's 50 something. Even if it costs you the same amount to run the car by maintenance and everything, you will never lose that much on an old car because depreciation. When you buy a 10, 15-year-old car, most of the depreciation already happened. My $1,500 car, I sell it for the same amount I buy it for, like 3 or 4 years later. Because when a car is in 1994, it can't depreciate anymore, right? I born in 1994. The car is the same age as me, right? So I understand what you're saying, but realistically, it doesn't work out like that. If your old car costs you that much money, get rid of it and buy a different old car. It can still be cheaper than having a brand new car.
But what I meant was the reconditioned cars, right?
Okay.
So those are still same thing, CJ. Same thing. Anyways, so where those cars are concerned, they're technically still newer. So I find, like for my car is in good condition. I pay that man to service my car once. My car is fine. You understand? So he do everything he had to do, and I put in gas, and the gas lasts me a month.
Yeah.
I don't need to think about. Pardon me? My car is a hybrid.
It's a hybrid.
So I good. My nice little $100 a
This is
month.
what I can tell you, right? Start saving now.
No, that's
Because
fine.
when that battery go, right, and you got to pay 15 grand, I work at the credit union. People come in all the time. My car need a battery is 15 grand, and I don't have no money.
No.
And now they got to borrow a loan just to replace that all that gas you save. Now you got to pay it back for that battery.
No, that's fine. We could sell it. But what I'm saying, that'll be somebody else's problem.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, when I do that, because my first choice was not a newer car.
Okay.
I wanted an older car. But the
Yes.
problem was, I wouldn't get a loan for an older car.
Okay.
For the year that I was looking for. I wouldn't have gotten a loan for it.
Yes.
Right? And then I had the option, I could have fixed my daddy's car and just drive it. But the amount of money I had to put into my father's other car, I might as well just buy a newer car.
Okay, look, I don't know the exact thing of your success. I don't know what's wrong with your father's car. I don't know, right? But what I'm saying is that if you've saved up, right, and you got $10,000 in cash, right, and you got a choice between buying a $10,000 car or putting that towards a loan and then buying like a new $70,000 car, you can always come out better off financially by buying the older car, right? Because you don't have the loan, for one. You avoid the astronomical servicing fees and stuff like that. And you also don't have to pay astronomical insurance because the car barely got value, right? Some of them don't even get approved for comprehensive. You've got to get third party, right? Because if it's not worth anything. So you can, I don't know the situation. And if you want to buy a newer car, that's completely up to you. All I would say is, if you are going to buy a newer car, you have to keep it for a very long time in order to make it worth it. Well, in the case of hybrids, you better get rid of that fast. But no, what you mean is, you have to keep it for a long time to make the depreciation make sense. Right? If you're selling off every couple of years, then you're just eating depreciation all the time. And you're gonna be paying out these loans on a constant basis, and you're going to be in debt for cars your whole life. Right? I see another question or comment.
Hello, good day, everyone. Happy Sabbath.
Hi.
Question, well, I have two, actually. First one was, not on this topic, going back in the beginning, the 50-30-20. It was 50% needs, 30% wants, and 20 savings, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask about investment. Where does investment fit into?
The savings and the 20%, that's savings and investment, right? So how I look at savings and investment is that if you have nothing at all put aside, you got to start with savings. But then once your savings get to a certain amount, let's say 3 to 6 months of your expenses. You got that set aside to cover you in case of emergencies. Then you can start investing, right? So you want to save up some money first in case of emergencies, and then you invest. So that 20% will go to our savings first, and then once you build a certain buffer that you decided based on your budget is reasonable for you and your family, then you can start going on to investing.
Thank you. And the second one was still on investing. You had a slide, possible investment. You
Yes.
skipped over it. Could we look at that, please?
All right, we could touch on it quickly. Let me
Or you want to go
finish.
after? Yeah.
Let me finish, and then we could touch on that at the end,
Thank you.
right? You were saying something? Right. What you're saying is that electric and hybrid cars depreciate faster, and it's for that same reason, right? That people know that the batteries only have a certain lifespan, 6, 7 years. So what you'll see is that a lot of 5-year-old electric cars for sale, because people buy them new, they drive them, they save all that gas, and then when they get 5 years old, they sell it because they know that's somebody else's problem, right? So whoever buy that, in a couple of years, they're going to have to replace that battery, and it costs a fortune to replace those batteries. I've seen situations where these cars that like 6, 7, 8, nearly 10 years old, and the batteries cost $15,000, $17,000 to replace. I wouldn't even. That's almost the whole value of the car now, right? It don't make sense to me. If you want to do that, and you keep it forever, and you can eat the cost every couple of years when it come up, okay. But me personally, I don't like $15,000 surprises, so I wouldn't go that route. Yeah, that's true. It's not even a surprise.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
This is just a comment based on what we were talking about cars. From my experience, I wouldn't buy a new car. From my experience, I wouldn't buy an old one either. I have had torture with old cars. I can tell you, I have had torture. I bought a car today. The car broke down today.
You get a mechanic to look at
You
that
can
car
imagine-
before you buy it?
No, yeah, mechanic looked at the car,
Okay.
but the car still broke down. There are things about old cars that a mechanic, you can't pick up everything. You can't see everything. So you have to wait until something happens. And then you notice that, oh, that's wrong. So what I ended up doing was I had a down payment,
Yeah.
and I paid down a 10% on the cost of the car. So my loan had a 10% down payment.
Right.
I paid for my car. My car, in 2024, I repainted my car.
Okay.
And my car that was 10 years old had a value of $23,000. And I had one more year to pay for it. So there are ways that you don't have to buy a new car. And I would not advise anybody to buy a new car, because an insurance agent told me years ago, never buy a car new. You end up being the loser. If you're going to buy a car, make sure the car is at least 3 or so years old, and buy a car at that age.
Yeah.
It works out better for you.
Right, and I glossed over that a little bit earlier, but what she's saying is true. If you definitely want a newer car, then 3 to 5 years, that's better, because most of the worst depreciation has already passed. And if you're going to get it and you're going to keep it after you finish paying off the loan and everything, you keep it for a long time because it's a relatively new car, then you could still win, right? But that's not what most people do. Once the loan is up, so it's a 3-year-old car, and you get a 5-year loan, and that loan, there's an 8-year-old car, I don't want this no more. That's what people do, and then they go and get another 2 or 3-year-old car, and you just eating more and more depreciation, right? So let's move on from cars, unless you had more comments. Oh, sorry, we had one more.
Thanks. Earlier you mentioned about rich people buying cars. I want to say that from my observation, my circle, is either that the person is leasing the car or there is part of their employment package to get a new car. I don't know very many rich people that buy cars. Maybe I don't know rich people.
Not rich enough. But yeah, I think rich people, right? What to say? What I would say is that a lot of them do lease, so and they do it through their businesses and stuff. So it's not them, like just like us going to pay $1,000 or $1,200 a month or whatever cars cost nowadays. They're paying something to their leasing agent, and then when that's up and they tell that, they're going to get a different thing, and they keep it moving, and it's all through their business, so it costs them personally very little to nothing, right? So you can't really look at other people. But what I was saying is, buying a new car and losing 5 or 10 grand of depreciation first year is a rich people thing. Like, you gotta have money to be okay with that, right? 5 grand is a lot to me, so I'm not comfortable losing that much in a year just by driving a car, so I won't buy a new car, right?
Good evening, everyone. What's your take on leasing? I don't want to go all to the thing. I know it's Sabbath thing. But
Yeah.
leasing versus, Barbados leasing is a little bit different to leasing in some other places.
If you are a business, it might make sense. If you run it through your business. Otherwise, it does not.
Here in,
Yes,
in Barbados.
In Barbados. Otherwise, it does not because you're just renting. You're just renting for a long time, and yeah, you don't got to worry about maintenance or anything, but you're paying for all that in the leasing fee. So you're going to end up paying more still. So unless you got a business and you could potentially write it off as an expense and stuff, but it might make sense, but as a maybe. If it's just you doing it personally, no, it don't make sense. Next slide, please. Right, now, credit cards. This is one that is very ticklish, right? I would say that a lot of people don't even understand how credit cards really work. My first job, when I first left university, I was working as a teller at Scotiabank. And people used to come in, and they used to pay the minimum, and then they used to argue with me and curse me because their balance going up, right? And I used to be thinking, nobody explained to them how this thing is work. If you pay minimum, you can be paying a credit card bill for the next 10 years, right? Minimum. You probably just pay it till you die. You can't pay the minimum on credit cards. That's just to stop yourself from getting charged interest. That's all that minimum served to do. If you're going to, here's my take. Don't use credit cards unless you're going to pay them off in full every single month. If you're not going to do that, don't use credit cards. It's not worth it. Yeah, you can get a couple points, but then you can get charged 27% interest, so you don't really gain no any better. So don't use credit cards unless you have the discipline to pay off in full every month to avoid the interest, right? I use credit cards, but I pay them off, right? And I get points, so cool. But I don't think the points are worth the interest that you get charged if you don't pay it off in full. So it's important that if you do use them, you pay them off in full. If you don't use them, you ain't missing that much. The only other major advantage besides the points is that if somebody scam you online or something, right, and you're using a credit card, you're good because that's the bank money. You can say, that's a scam, I didn't do that. And they're going to say, okay, cool, and then they're going to go fight that person for the money. If it's a debit card for that same purchase, they're going to say, boss, that your money. I can't do nothing about that. And then going to go along about their business, and you lost that money. So if you're doing online purchases, credit cards are safer for that reason, that the bank is very serious about their money, but they don't really care that much about yours. So if you use a debit card, they're not going to fight as hard. If you use a credit card, they will fight harder. Keisha, I'm sorry, Keisha. I don't mean to pick on banks or anything, but you know. But yeah, so, credit cards, yeah, you could if you want, but make sure you pay off every month. Now, let's say you were in debt and you need to get out of it. There are two methods that I would advocate you use. First, you could use this debt snowball method, which is where you list out everything from smallest to largest, and you make minimum payments on everything, and then any extra you have, you pay on the smallest debt with the smallest balance first. And once that's done, all the money you were paying to that smallest debt, you take and you pay on the second smallest debt. Once that's done, the third smallest debt, and so on. And it kind of snowballs, and it gets faster and faster and faster as you pay off debts, right? The next method would be the debt avalanche method, which is where instead of lining them up by smallest balance up to largest balance, you do it by highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. So you're paying off things like credit cards, payday loans, courts, ready finance, and fast cash and them that got 37% interest. You're paying them off first, then you're going down to the car loans and the other things that have a lower interest rate, right? And mathematically, this one will save you more money, but behaviorally, people tend to stick to snowball better because they see progress. They see, oh, I get to pay off this small one, I get to get this one out the way, and they tend to stick with it a little bit more, but either way you work, as long as you get out of debt, I'm fine with that. Next. The final thing, or second last thing I want to mention to you is, if you want to know if you're being a good steward or not, one of the ways is that you could track your net worth, right? Anybody know what net worth is? Huh? Okay, I hear it. Anyways, so your net worth is basically the wealth that you've accumulated over time, right? Let's go to the next slide. The calculation is, next slide, is assets minus liabilities. So things that you own minus things that you owe. So if you own a house, that's the asset, and you have a mortgage for that house, that's the liability. So you adding up everything that you own of value together, that's your asset number, and then you subtracting all the money that you owe to people, that's your liabilities number, and the difference is your net worth. For many people, that number will be negative because you have more because you have more debt than you have assets, right? And that's okay when you first start now, especially. What I would say is that if you're being a good steward, what you will see is that over time, your net worth will increase because your liabilities will be getting smaller and your assets will be growing. Okay? Let's go to the next one. The final thing I want to talk to you about is the difference between a credit union and a bank, right? So banks are great. They're very convenient. But banks are businesses. They're focused on profit first, right? And so if you put money on the bank, you can earn practically zero interest, and they can charge you fees for the privilege of doing that. Credit unions will charge you practically no fees and give you a much higher interest rate, right? So the difference is that credit unions are owned by the members. So everybody that's a member of the SDA credit union is a part owner of it. And so when the credit union makes money, so do you. And because we try to keep the interest rate as high as possible and so on, we try to do things that benefit the member because we're not as concerned with profits as banks are. That's all credit unions. I'm talking about all credit unions in general, right? Credit unions in general have much higher interest rates on deposits. Somebody can get a mic over here, please. So the interest rate on deposit right now, it just dropped to 0.5%, right? The banks are 0.001 or something like that. Some banks just write you a letter and say, look, don't bother to look for interest. We're not doing that no more. I literally got a letter like that, by the way. We just don't look for interest. We're not paying you none. And we also we don't have monthly fees or anything like that. So what I would say is that if you're doing like everyday banking, you want to pay bills and all that, banks are better. They have better systems and they're more convenient. They have ATMs and all that. If you're looking to save money, put down for save, you're saving up for a house, you're saving up for a car, all that, credit unions are better because they have higher interest rates and they tend to be more, they tend to be a little bit more lenient in terms of lending because they're a members organization rather than a bank that's strictly profit, right? So that's generally the case, yeah. Hold on, ready, Mike?
Three, 1, 2, test.
So my question is for the credit union, if you put down money and you want to like build on it, invest it for it to grow, how do you do that? Like how does it work?
Within the credit union?
Yeah.
Okay, so within the credit union, the only thing really is a term deposit, but the credit union is not for investing. The credit union is for saving, right? So you can have a term deposit and that would get you a slightly higher interest rate than the regular deposit rate. But credit unions are not places where you go to invest. That's just where you save money, potentially to make investment decisions. So let's say you want to get into real estate, right? You might want to save up some money to do that. credit union is the best place to do that, right? And then when you're ready to take the loan again to real estate, you take the money out and use it to take the loan. You could take it from your credit union as well, and you buy that piece of real estate or whatever. But usually credit unions don't really, because of regulations, there's very little that we could do in terms of offering investment opportunities to customers. So that's not really what credit unions are for, nor banks, by the way. Most banks, you don't go to banks to invest, really, unless you're ultra wealthy. They got their wealth management divisions and stuff. But for us average people, that's not really going to be a consideration. Next slide, please. Right, so this is just a flyer from the Adventist Credit Union and the things that we offer. Matthias can touch on that a little bit more. And the location is down there by the conference. And I think that when it comes to the credit union movement in general, is a good movement I think everybody should have at least one bank account and at least one credit union account, right? It's good to have certain things separate. It is not, I like to have my savings apart from the money that I'm using just to pay bills and everything, to make sure it stays saved, you know, that it don't end up getting evaporated somehow and I don't realize. Let it keep it separate, and also the benefit of having the higher interest rate and so on. So next slide. Yeah, next slide. Matthew 16:26, this is the final thing I'll say. It says, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? And what shall a man gain in return for his soul?" And I always put this at the end of the presentations because I think that we spoke a lot about money today, a lot about stewardship, a lot about managing finances. And is it important? Yes. But is it the most important thing in the world? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that whatever God gives you to be a steward of, you need to become educated and be the best steward that you can be. And maybe that starts here, but hopefully it continues with you educating yourself through reading, through listening to, podcasts, or whatever you got to do to become a better steward of whatever God gives you to manage. That's the end. Thank you very much. Do we have any final questions before I hand over to Matthias? Let's go back. I think it's maybe slide 38 or something like that. 30-something. Right? So he was asking about some examples of investment opportunities that are available in Barbados and stuff. And they have investment, interest-bearing savings account, mutual funds, real estate, peer-to-peer lending, stocks, bonds, and starting a business, right? Those are some, there's a lot of types of investments, but those are some that are readily available in Barbados. Most of them are self-explanatory, but for the ones that aren't, like mutual funds, for example, that's where you just take a bunch of stocks and put them together in one basket. So when you pay $100 in, instead of buying one share of Google, you're buying one piece of 20 or 40 different companies that the mutual fund company have put together for you, right? Real estate is self-explanatory. Peer-to-peer lending is where you lend money to a company, and you invest money with a company, and they lend it to other people, charge them 12% interest, let's say. They keep 4% for themselves and give you the other 8%, right? So there are companies in Barbados that do that. There's stocks, there's bonds, and then they're starting a business, right? Yep, that's it. Any other questions? All right, good. In that case, thank you very much, guys. I want to encourage you to be the best steward that you can be. And I also want to encourage you to come and open an account at the SDA Credit Union and take loans from us as well, so that we can help you to be the best steward that you can be, right? Reasonable loans, of course, for older cars, all right? All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Can you give him a round of applause? I think he did an excellent job there. And I'm glad that he ended on the credit union, because I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the credit union, right? Should I say entice? To encourage you a little bit more. So actually, I want to acknowledge our members that are here. So I'm going to ask, so Ken is already standing. I'm going to ask the members of the board of the credit union who are here to please stand. Oh, yeah, all right, Keisha can't stand. So Keisha is sitting, if you can't see her, wherever it is, she has her hand up. We have Sister Colleen right here. Can you wave? All right. Colleen is the secretary of the board. Keisha is a floor member on the board. Kent is the head of the credit committee. All right. So when you apply for your loans, you'll be looking over them. All right. And I am the treasurer. Okay. So we have good people in the credit union, right? Good people. I also want to say a given misconception is that the credit union is much more affiliated or tied to the conference. That's not true. We can't because of regulations. We are regulated by the FSC, so we are separate and apart. We have to answer to them. So you can rest assured that your investments, your monies will be safe. Okay? So Barbados SDA Cooperative Credit Union is secure investment with a higher purpose. Next slide. All right, so not sure if you can see that, but the credit union was founded in 1988. That's a long time ago. How many years is that? I don't know. I don't know. How many years? Somebody that can do math a lot. Pardon me? 38 years, you say? 1988. All right? How many ever years it is, right? And as Kent would have said, the difference between a bank and a credit union is that the credit union is a not-for-profit organization. So yes, we do make some profits, but that profit goes to the members of the credit union. So the credit union is member-owned. As it says here, it's established to facilitate the financial growth of its members. Next slide. All right. So the credit union is governed by its board of directors and supported by key oversight committees and employees, including the credit committee. So I just told you about Kent and his credit committee. We also have a supervisory committee. So that committee is there to make sure that we are within the regulations, that they look over all of the documents and make sure that all of them have signatures and we follow all of the procedures that we're supposed to be following. So you have the board of directors, the credit committee, and the supervisory committee. And like all other financial institutions, we are governed by the Financial Services Commission. Next slide. All right. So one of the key reasons we should have accounts at the credit union is because the credit union is run by Adventists for Adventists, right? The credit union was created for us, right? Only Seventh-day Adventists can join. And I think that we should take advantage of that. So our credit union is a faith-based institution that is dedicated to serving its members. And some of the things that we can find that are beneficial about this is we have alignment of morals and values. I just said that it's member-focused. We have a reinforcement of community development, easier access of loans for individuals and churches, right? So a bank might have a lot of rigid rules. If you don't meet the rules, yeah, go along. We ain't dealing with you. But if you apply for a loan, the credit union might say, okay, you might need to put down a little bit more to secure the loan. And every loan is done by a case-by-case basis. So it's carefully reviewed, and we will make the decision as to whether or not you can have the loan. All right? And then the last one is, as a credit union, we are going through a phase where we're trying to educate our members. As we just did this evening, we're trying to give our members some financial education. So it's not only that you come and you put down your money and you get loans from us, but we also want you to manage your money wisely. Next slide. Okay, so the credit union has a wide range of services. So in our deposit accounts, you have the regular deposits where you earn 0.5% on your deposits. And as Kent would have said, that is much higher than a lot of the banks out there. And also, we have our term deposits, all right? So the percentages range from, so you can have 1.5 to 1.75% for a maximum of 5 years. Okay? So if you, as Kent said, you wouldn't come to the credit union to make major investments. But if you have a sum of money, you may not know what to do with it, you want to put it down, you can create a term deposit and you can earn some interest in that term deposit. All right? Next slide. Okay. So in terms of our credit facilities, so we have different types of loans. We have personal loans. We have transportation loans where you would, get your cars. We have mortgages, and this is actually a milestone for the credit union because I think probably it was close to like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, we weren't doing mortgages. We started at that time, and now I believe we have about 5 or 6 mortgages on our books. So the credit union is growing, and it's growing at a pace where we are able to offer mortgages to our members, all right? We also have education loans. So we've had people who wanted a loan to pay for school fees for maybe 1 or 2 or 3 terms. Or if you have somebody going overseas to college, we had parents coming in because they needed to finance their children going overseas to university. So we also have those facilities as well. And usually our interest rates on loans, they range from about 4.75% to about 12%, depending on the facilities. So mortgages will come in the range of, 4%, 4.75, personal loans, and other loans you would, have a little bit higher interest rates there. Next slide. All right. So growth and vision. So the credit union has recognized that these are different times, and we want to make things better for our members. So the board got together and we discussed some things that we are looking to do in the near future. Some of those things includes partnering with Seventh-day Adventist car dealerships, right? So if you go to Signia Finance, they have a relationship with Pioneer Motors. So we want to kind of do that because it makes getting your vehicle faster and easier. So we've recognized that, and we've started talking to some car dealerships where we will have that type of relationship with them. We also want to partner with Adventist entrepreneurs, right? We recognize that there are people in the church who have an entrepreneurial spirit. They have great ideas for businesses. So we also want to partner with them, maybe help them to put together their business plans, and then, if it's solid, we want to try to finance them as well. Another thing we want to do is we wanted to create goal accounts for our churches. We want to encourage each church to have an account at the credit union. So if your church needs a bus, right, and you start collecting money, you can put that money on the credit union, right? Or if you want to, you can get a loan from the credit union for the bus that you want, right? So this is basically an effort to have churches join the credit union, right? A lot of churches have accounts with the banks, but we want to basically reach out to them and say, hey, instead of putting the money at the bank, come and put the money at the credit union and earn a higher interest, right? And another thing we want to do is, very quickly, we've started making moves towards an online system, all right? So currently, we've moved to a place where you can't necessarily do transactions online, but you would be able to see your statements and so on online. That's going to take some time, and that is also positively correlated with the growth of the credit union, how many members have joined, because that affects what we can do. But those are some of the things that we want to do. So we are not just sitting down here stagnant. We have a plan, and we are hoping that with your help, we can achieve that plan so that we can grow together. Thank you.
as we transition to the next segment of our program, we're going to sing I Shall Not Be Moved. Number 83 in the Avenue Sing. Jesus is my Savior, I shall not be moved. In His love and favor, I shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the waters, Lord, I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the waters, Lord, I shall not be moved. In my Christ abiding, in my Christ abiding, I shall not be moved. In His love I'm hiding, in His love I'm hiding, I shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the waters, Lord, I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the waters, Lord, I shall not be moved. On His word I'm feeding. On His word I'm feeding. I shall not be moved. He's the one that's leading. He's the one that's leading. I shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the waters, Lord, I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the waters, Lord, I shall not be moved.
Greetings, everybody. I am so excited. I'm Pastor Sean Shepherd, the youth director of the East Caribbean Conference. I want to tell you about something great that's coming up, Bible Connect 2026, and I want you to be involved today. We are calling all AYs, adventurers, pathfinders, Greetings, everybody. I am so excited. I'm Pastor Sean Shepherd, the youth director of the East Caribbean Conference. I want to tell you about something great that's coming up, Bible Connect 2026, and I want you to be involved today. We are calling all AYs, adventurers, pathfinders, to be part of Bible Connect 2026. Purpose in your heart. This year, our topic is Dare to be a Daniel. Are you ready to be like Daniel? For further information, we want you to go to all of the social media, and whether it be Pathfinders, Adventure, whatever chats, look for it. Information will be coming out very, very, very soon. Eat the pulse, feel the pulse, be like Daniel. Bible Connect 2026. Get ready. It's going to be a blast in Jesus' name.
Government Hill, to start saving, to start a account at the credit union and to start our saving initiative. So what I wanted to do was have each person save $100 a month. It is not a lot, but $100 a month. Because on the credit union, you cannot take off the money. You get school money, you get job money, you get your pay. So you can save $100 a month. And if you cannot make that, $50 the least. So $100 or $50 a month, every month, from February until December, so that you can start your account and everything. We have the sign-up sheets here with the persons from the credit union, so you can sign up for our account after AY has finished. And we want to start the initiative $100 or $50 a month until the end of the year, starting from next month.
Okay, well said, Leah. One other thing about this savings initiative, and Leah is actually the person that brought this up. So if you want to take off some money, right, you will owe me 10% of what you want to take off. So that is, and Kendra says that's why it's not coming off. Because the idea is to get you to understand, right, that you need to save. So if you decide, man, you know what, I see this, what young girls like to buy nowadays? I don't know.
A lip gloss?
A lip gloss. I see this lip gloss that I don't really need, and it costs like what, $20, right? You want to take off that $20, right? I don't know, Fenty Beauty, okay? Right? So you would need then to give me back $2 because that's 10%. That's a penalty. We don't want you as much as possible to take money from this account. It's supposed to be that you're building up money towards a goal, okay? So the idea is we want you to have somewhat of a buffer or emergency fund at the end of the year, okay? So as Leah said, we have the sign-up sheets, the application forms. After AY is finished, I believe we should have a table out there, and you can get a form from any of the credit union board members. And I hope that you will treat this initiative as seriously as we should, because this can spring into something major. It's about developing a habit, all right? Let me see the hands of all those who are going to join us in this initiative.
It's not just for the young people, also
Yes,
the older
all the
people, if you
folks.
want to join, you can also join and join the savings initiative as well.
That's looking good. Okay, all right. So, is there a prize for the person who saved the most money at the end of the year?
First of all, you will get a bicycle. Stop.
A bicycle? Okay, I'm not sure about that one, but we will see what we can do. Double the interest? Oh, double the money that's there. Oh, okay.
The Lord will bless her pocket and multiply.
Well, well, we will determine what we can do for the person that saved the most money. All right? Okay?
A trip to the
trip.
spa.
All right. A trip.
A trip to a
Yeah.
spa.
A trip to a spa. All right. But seriously, guys, this is the start of a great initiative. I want you to grab an application form and inquire about the credit union, and please sign up. It's our credit union, right? It's for us, by us. So let's join and make our credit union what it can be. I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Thank you so much. Special thanks to the Good News Posse for coming down and support. Special thanks to Map Hill. Thank you for coming out and support. Of course, special thanks to Government Hill. Thank you very much. If there are people from Pinelands, thank you. It's been a success. Special thanks to the Good News Praise team. Special thanks to Kent. Thank you to the media team for putting up the slides and everything. And I hope that as you leave here that you will put these things into practice. You didn't just learn this so that it can, be placed at the back of your mind. You learned this so that you can put this into action. All right. So let's all stand as we have our closing prayer. All right, let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for the fellowship that we had this evening. Thank you so much, Lord, for the information that you've given us. We ask, dear God, that we will be an example to those who are looking at us, that we will be perfect not only spiritually, but physically and financially. I ask, dear God, that as we leave this place to go to our separate homes, may we arrive in peace and in safety. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Just a quick reminder, this is for all AYs. This is what I usually do after my AYs. Next week is our AY youth leading, AY leaders, it's called a training summit. There's a new name, training summit. It is from the 30th to the 31st. So the 30th, the Friday night, is from 7 p.m. until 8:30 p.m. And the Sabbath, the 31st, is from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. So, the location is the conference center. Yes, both days, the conference center. So, all AY teams from Map Hill, Government Hill, and GNC make a good effort to be there. It promises to be informative and also useful to us in the future. So, just remember our AY training summit next weekend, Friday and Saturday.
As we leave, we are going to sing number 111 in the Advent. You sing, Jesus is coming again. Jesus is coming soon. Sorry.
Troublesome times are here, filling men's hearts with fear. Freedom we all hold dear, now is at stake. Humble your hearts to God, saving the chasing rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christian awake. Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom, trumpets will sound. Surely sound, when the dead shall rise, in the skies, only when no one dies, heavenward bound. Love of so many cold, losing their home of gold. Listen, the world is cold, evils abound. When these signs come to pass, near in the end at last, it will come very fast, trumpets will sound. Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom, trumpets will sound. All of the dead shall rise, in the skies, glowing where no one dies, heavenward bound. Troubles will soon be o'er, happy forevermore. When we meet on that shore, free from all care. Rising up in the sky, telling this world goodbye. Hoping we then will fly, glory to share. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom, trumpets will sound. All of the dead shall rise, in the skies, where no one dies, heavenward bound. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom, trumpets will sound. All of the dead shall rise, in the skies, where no one dies, heavenward bound.